Hello everyone and welcome to the return of my monthly Q&A series, perhaps the most anticipated video ever on my channel, at least for some of you guys out there. This is Probing Paul number 69. Nice. And of course, this is a very special episode since it has been quite a while since I last did my Q&A series. That was all the way back in September, actually September 14th. So to get back into it, I will be intimately probed today with 69 questions, mostly from my fans taken from the last Probing Paul video in the comments section, also some replies on Twitter and a tweet that I posted earlier today. And you know what? I'm also going to be doing some probing myself, or some probing of myself, because I slipped in a few questions here and there that I just came up with that I thought you guys might want to hear the answer to. So I think that pretty much covers it. There was one other item to deal with here in the intro. A frosty beverage seems like a good idea just to, keep things loose. So cheers, thanks for joining me today, and let's get into the 69th episode of Probing Paul.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Corsair's new Xeneon monitor, the 32QHD 165, featuring an ultra-slim 32-inch 2560 by 1440 QHD screen with 1 millisecond moving picture response time, a 165 Hz refresh rate fast IPS panel, quantum dot technology, and 100% sRGB, 100% Adobe RGB, and 98% DCI-P3 color gamut coverage for more vivid natural colors, HDR 400 support, and convenient features like the integrated multi-mount point for cameras, mics, or lighting built into the stand to round out the package. So for more on Corsair's Xeneon monitor, click the sponsor link in the video description. Did I say cheers? Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Also, since I'm answering 69 questions, I'm going to try to make the answers pretty quick and pretty brief and pretty to the point. And I did group them into categories, so you can check the timestamps for that, or the description has a list of every single question I'm answering today, starting with, what is your name? My name is Paul. What is your quest? I seek the Grail. Can we acknowledge that you like Monty Python and think their work is funny, and drop any future references in this video for the sake of the audience? Yes, despite Mike and Clint going on about that, I will acquiesce to this request that I made myself. Question 4, where'd you get the idea to do a 69 questions 69th episode? The answer would be from people like Sheska, who posted that in the last video. Actually, quite a few people requested it. Sheska was just the first I came across. An important question 5, chicken nuggets or tendies, chicken strips, and what sauce would you use? I'm okay with both, although I would lean towards chicken strips because they tend to be higher quality meat, not like the chicken paste that the nuggets are often made out of. And for sauce, I'm partial to sweet and sour, but I would have to say honey mustard. I really like honey mustard. Do I still think that the solar and Powerwall installation was worth it? I would say yes. It was a big investment, so I have to stand behind that. And it's definitely been nice to have minimal to sometimes negative power bills, although it is something that I need to come back to, so perhaps more on that in 2022. Bloody bucket with a procedural question. Do I check for questions for the next Probing Paul many times or just before the next probe? Honestly, it's usually just before the next probe, so it's usually about a month later. Occasionally, I will look at the comment section before that, though. Alex with a heavy hitter. Favorite Filipino dish? Lumpia, hands down, 100%. Although don't get lumpia from Chowking. I don't know how, but they somehow managed to massacre theirs. And to follow up, what's your least favorite Filipino dish? Balut absolutely stands out. Chicken should be served as an egg or as a whole chicken, not something in between. Although a very, very, very close runner-up is called bagoong. It's a shrimp paste. That's also really gross. Look, we're already to question 10. Did you stop Probing Paul number 68 on purpose? Yes, absolutely I did. Probing Paul is usually a video that I can put together fairly quickly in like a day and a half. But there's a lot of hype around the 69th episode, and it was also the end of the year with Q4, so there was lots of other stuff going on, so I kept pushing it back, but now it's back. Rest did a double question, so he gets the first question in the next category, which is questions about tech. Is pre-applied thermal paste on a CPU cooler as good as aftermarket paste? Often it is not quite as good, although it is within a very, very slim margin. Most thermal pastes are only going to be a variance of maybe 3, 4, 5 degrees Celsius from the worst to the best. So the paste that comes pre-applied on a cooler is totally fine, and it's only if you're being really, really picky and you happen to have other paste around that you might want to swap it out for something else. Quackerjack asks, should I upgrade to the RX 6500 XT? And he has like a two-way RX 550 setup right now with an R7 3700X. I think the 6500 XT should only be for people who really need a new graphics card and don't have something to work with already. You have two RX 550s. That's not the best, of course, but it is functional, so I would hold out, maybe wait till later in the year and see if GPU prices become a little bit more favorable, or like Brian Bound said down here in his reply, go with something like a 6600 or above, or the RTX 3050 even, and you'll probably be happier about that decision further down the road. Thoughts on early Steam Deck reviews? I do not have a Steam Deck. I am not under NDA. I think it's pretty interesting, some of the hardware design that they've done with it already. Seems to be a pretty cool device that might open up PC gaming to sort of a whole new category of PC gamers, but I don't do a lot of mobile gaming, which is why I didn't jump on that early. What is one piece of tech you wish would make a comeback? I want to say, at least in desktop PCs, 5¼ inch bays for optical drives have gone the way of the Dodo, but 5¼ inch bays could be used for lots of stuff. You could use it for like a multi-card reader, or like a drive swap bay or something like that, or even like a reservoir for a liquid cooling setup. I understand why they're not around anymore, because optical drives really aren't, and they're a fairly large and bulky elements to integrate into a chassis, but that's one thing where I'm like, it would be nice to have some space there to do an upgrade. Matty Oaks asks, would you ever recommend a pre-built given the current market? Typically no, because my thing is to build your own computer, but given the current market, I would say absolutely yes. If you want an RTX 3080 right now and there's costing $2,000 or more, or you could buy a full pre-built system for about the same price, buy the pre-built system and not the standalone card. Jerry asks, do you like NVIDIA's Super or TI naming scheme? And I appreciate, Jerry, that you are old-fashioned. I'm old-fashioned too. I like TI. I feel like it was a nice sort of unique to NVIDIA element to add, to be like, here's the GPU. Here's that GPU, but a little bit better. I feel like Super is kind of the same thing. It muddies and confuses the naming process and the product stack, so I don't like Super, I do like TI. And don't call it Ti. Speaking of Ty asks, do you think we should upgrade to Windows 11 from a gamer standpoint? There's only one way I would say you absolutely should, and that's if you're rocking a new Intel 12th Gen Core processor with P-cores and E-cores. Then you want Windows 11. If you're not, Windows 10 honestly is totally fine right now, and if you're using it and it's stable and you're happy with it, don't bother upgrading. There is a free upgrade period that ends at some point. I don't know exactly when, but if you're thinking about upgrading, you might want to do it before then so you get it for free rather than maybe having to pay for it. Shout out to Ironside PC. They're my friends over on Twitter, and they posted this. I don't know, is it a question? I don't know if it's a question. It's sort of an interesting thing about memory speed and comparing normalized human time to latency, going from like a CPU clock cycle and cache access all the way up to RAM access and stuff. I wouldn't say I have a lot of charts like this that I often go back to and reference, but I found this one to be interesting, and that's why I included it in today's video. How noticeable is the jump in resolution from 1080 to 1440 to 4K? It's noticeable, but what I'm telling you right now is anecdotal, especially 1080 to 4K. I definitely notice the pixels more with 1080 versus 4K where everything's a lot smoother. So yeah, that's one of the great benefits of PC gaming over consoles, although consoles can do 4K now too. I would say in terms of PC gaming, your desktop, like your core system, is a big upgrade, and then your monitor is a big upgrade separately, and you should save up a decent amount of money there so you can invest in like a high refresh rate 1440 monitor or something in the 4K range. It's definitely worth it if you're a PC gamer and you're currently on 1080. And the last tech question, will I get into GPU and cryptocurrency mining as a side hustle, extra channel content? I had debated this in the past a little bit more. Now I would say no, I'm not interested in it at all. I am interested in cryptocurrency in the future, and I would like to have like a rational discussion about cryptocurrency that's separate from GPU mining. So if they do separate and Ethereum moves to proof of stake and suddenly GPU mining goes away, I think I'll be much more keen to rationally discuss the benefits of cryptocurrency and some of the positive aspects to it. I just really don't think that GPU mining is an effective long-term mechanism for scarcity within a cryptocurrency. Incidentally, this is also why I don't own tech stocks. I wouldn't want my investment in GPU mining to cause me to veer my opinions on GPU mining in general, just as I wouldn't want me owning stock in NVIDIA or AMD or Intel to affect my decisions or recommendations to you guys. I don't do that so that I don't have that potential conflict of interest. Our next category is questions about my channel. First one is from Shellback Tech. What's up, Travis? Do you have any big plans in the works behind the scenes for the channel this year? No. Okay, maybe no is too stark of an answer. Yes, I do have plans. I have projects that I want to work on. Mostly, I just want to maintain sanity. That's my goal right now, is maintaining sanity and sort of a nice, stable level of well-being in my life, mental health and everything. And one way in the past that I've shot myself in the foot is just planning out too much stuff and making too many commitments. So I'm trying to make as few commitments as possible, other than, regular videos on the channel, so that I can, not go crazy. Here's a nice follow-up. NeoChaosX had asked in the last probing poll about an RGB backlit capable keycap, and I just wanted to point out that yes, I totally followed up on that. It is right here. It's available on the store. It's $9.50, so that may or may not be worth it to you. I know it's a lot for a keycap, but we can't do huge runs of these. So that was what we settled on, but here are some of the pictures I took of it. It's really nice. I've actually got it in my keyboard right now. And thanks NeoChaosX for your influence on that decision. What's it like being a full-time YouTuber? What's your schedule like? Being a full-time YouTuber is awesome in many different ways. I think the thing I like the most about it is being independent, being able to make my own decisions, As for my schedule, it often varies wildly, but in my head, I spend about 4 days in direct production work and then maybe one other day doing what I would call admin tasks, following up on emails and business stuff and making plans for future videos and getting parts lined up and everything. So it's fun. Obviously, there are downsides to it as well. I often feel like there's never an end to the work that I do. So winding down in the evening and sort of cutting off my work and making sure that I have some time for my own mental health is something that I try to do all the time. What's up, Big Al? Any more gaming live streams planned in the future? Not immediately. Kyle and I are still planning to do the Awesome Hardware Charity live stream twice again this year. I think one for summer and one for the winter. As for streams directly to my YouTube channel, I have found that those don't often perform very well, and in fact, those often lead to a dip in the number of subscribers I get. And while that by itself wouldn't make me say, oh, I'm never doing live streams again, it has made me think about it in sort of a different context. So what I've talked about doing, although I don't have a date where I'm going to kick this off or anything, is live streaming directly to my Twitch channel, or possibly doing a secondary YouTube channel, and then taking those live streams and having like stats on screen or something like that, editing those down into a much shorter segment that I would still post on YouTube, or some sort of balance in between those. But the Awesome Hardware Charity streams will still be on the channel because those I love, and I don't care if people watch them or don't. It's all about, it's for the children. What YouTube genre would you want to cross over with PC tech? There are so many out there, but I think for me personally, I would want to do something with woodworking because it's something that I've dabbled with a little bit in the past. It's something that I want to get better at, and I feel like that's a good crossover with like the maker community, but doing like DIY, you know, wood frames either for shelving or like in a setup somewhere, or to build a PC case out of. I think that would be really, really cool, and hopefully I have the wherewithal to move forward with that idea. Edis Golubic says, well, said he whitelisted my channel. So the question is, have you whitelisted the Paul's Hardware channel? You don't have to. I don't blame anyone who doesn't whitelist it. But if you like my channel and you want to help me earn a little bit more money and keep things up and running, that would be cool. When did you realize you could make YouTube videos for a living? That would be around 2012, which was when I started my channel. I guess I should clarify. When I started my channel in 2012, it was heavily influenced by Kyle, who also started creating YouTube videos on his personal channel at the same time. And then a couple years later in 2014, it was absolutely Kyle who came to me and said, hey, I think I'm gonna go independent with this. That made me think like, wait, can I do that too? At the time I had around 80,000 subscribers, and then it built up from there, which was really cool. It became sustainable very quickly as well. And then another big influence on that and something that allowed me to do it was my wife, Diana, who also works full-time, and said, I can add you to my healthcare plan and support you in that way to allow you to sort of get this up and running and see how it plays out. So big thank you to Diana and Kyle. Sean asks, did you fully disassemble Riptide yet? And the answer is yes. And actually this also goes back to around September. This is Riptide as it was. This is Riptide in the middle. And then I have also now pulled out the FreeNAS system that was down at the bottom. I do still need to find a home for that Corsair 1000D case. It's sitting over there taking up way too much space. And I'll post a link to the Riptide playlist in the description if you guys are interested in more on that. Do I have any new products coming to the store? Thank you, Colton. A very good question. This shirt I'm wearing right now is one of my new 8-bit-ish designs. I have like a CPU and a case and a motherboard and storage, and basically all the little elements of a PC. I've just recently done a case fan as well. Those are currently being vectorized, and I have a bunch of ways that I'm going to be integrating those into products, shirts, tech briefs, of course. I want to do some boxer briefs, and I'll also be doing sort of a refresh of the graphic design of my channel. So all that stuff coming soon. I'm slow going with it, but it's moving along. It's coming. Have I ever built my own custom keyboard? No. No, I have not. It's one of those niche PC gaming things that has really blown up in popularity, especially over the past couple years. It kind of surprised me. I never thought that people were that into their keyboards. It makes me glad because subjects like that just make me happy in general, people getting really down into the nitty-gritty of how hardware works. But it's just something that I haven't really done myself. I have lots of mechanical keyboards. I have a good video on cleaning a mechanical keyboard, but who knows, maybe I'll do that soon. My next 10 questions are questions about life, which, you know, it's a good subject. When are we going to hang out? Asks Dr. Ian Cuttress, as well as Brian. Dr. Cuttress, Senior Stro, I would love to see you guys in person. I really would. I'm hoping to do a little bit more travel this year again. You know, there's so many elements that go into it. Travel has obviously been difficult because of COVID. My life has gotten pretty busy in some unique ways in the past 2 years and 8 months or so since my daughter was born, so that's obviously a concern as well. So I have to give you the standard answer here. Soon? Soon. Soon, I hope. How do you manage large amounts of data, such as storage and sorting it, asks CyberX. I don't have a very good solution for that. I do have a good solution for my pictures. My pictures are all in a folder, and there's like a date for each folder with like the different event that happened, and those are pretty well sorted. Stuff beyond that is not very well sorted. I have a lot of external 4 terabyte hard drives that I've done a bunch of backups of stuff onto for my old Paul's Hardware content. I do have my final renders, like the final completed videos, stored on my FreeNAS as well as in another backup location. So I can get to those without too much difficulty, but I feel like a long-term, large capacity data storage solution and sorting solution is always something that like I have in the back of my mind and I never actually move forward with. So if that's you as well, then don't feel bad at all. But how do I manage large amounts of data? I get a new hard drive and I start dumping stuff onto that. What's your best choice for a 55-foot TV under $1,000? A 55-foot TV is very, very large. That's very, I don't know if you can get one for that cheap. So obviously Jake made a little bit of a typo here in the same vein as like Spinal Tap with their Stonehenge monument that they had made. But I will say my personal experience with TVs recently that I've enjoyed has been the LG CX series TV that I did a video on, it was like a year or two ago now. Beyond that, I can't really tell you too much because I don't have a broad range of experience with a lot of different types of TVs. But I try to be honest with people about the stuff that I know and the stuff that I don't know quite as well. And TVs I don't know quite as well. But I do like the LG OLED series. What are your favorite backpacking and hiking areas in California? So most of my backpacking has been done in Northern California, kind of in the range of Yosemite. There's an area called Ansel Adams Wilderness that's just north of Mammoth Mountain. So that's where we would often start out from a place called Agnew Meadows. We would hike up this valley and we get up to Thousand Island Lake. And right before you get there, there's this like alpine meadow that you go through, and there's like Banner Peak in the background with like snow-topped mountains, and it's just like the most beautiful place I've ever seen. California is massive, so there's tons of other places to hike as well, but those are the ones that I've really enjoyed in my experience. Ansel Adams Wilderness, or if you can get up into the Yosemite High Country, that's awesome too. Chukata asks, how are Hero and Nori? Those are my 2 dogs. Nori is doing great. She might have a UTI right now, like she's been tinkling on her beds, which we're trying to deal with. She just went to the vet today. Hero is doing well too, but he is definitely in his twilight years. He's estimated about 13 years old now, and he is a 100-pound dog, and that's pretty old for a very large dog. So he is now on chronic painkillers to deal with pain he's been having in his back, hips, and legs. That has been helping. He's a lot more mobile than he was before he started taking that medication. So he's doing better there, but you know, he is a very old dog and he's a very large dog. So we're trying to keep him comfortable and happy as long as we can. How is Hana, your daughter, doing? Haven't seen her in any vlogs in a while. That's totally intentional, both not doing quite as many vlogs because again, that's just content that I make that I know there's a group of people who enjoy, but on a larger scale, they don't tend to do very well. And as for my daughter, I'm fairly protective of her, and I just don't want to put her in videos all the time. I don't mind if she pops up here and there because she's my daughter and she might be there, but it's not something that I want to like actively go and be like, oh, how can I put Hana in this video too? But she's gonna be 3 this year and she's absolutely awesome and wonderful, and she's even like starting to get over the terrible twos phase too, which I really appreciate. Are you an introvert or extrovert? Asks the Ruben. Introvert, absolutely introvert. Like I have a few slightly extroverted tendencies, but introvert is the way to go for me. Do you want to be my friend? Asks Maddie. Well, Maddie, I just talked about being an introvert, so no. But no, I would like to be your friend as long as it's like a small group environment with just like a few people. I'm very, very much over like large parties and group gatherings at this point in my life. I'm just like, no, like make it quiet so we can have a conversation or just eat some good food or something like that. That's what I want to do. Why is the default volume setting always 67 on a fresh Windows install? That's a good question, Sam. It's actually something that I hadn't really noticed before. I guess it's sort of a nice midpoint between having the volume loud enough to hear and not having it maxed at 100% so it'll blast out the speakers. Emily asks, what is something fun and different I can add to my system to celebrate its first birthday? Happy birthday to your computer. 4 months ago, Emily, but I would say like an action figure or something like that. Something non-tech that you can put in there just sort of as a bit of flair or whatever you want to call that. You know, find an intellectual property that you like and enjoy, like a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or anything like that, and get a little character and put it in there and add a little bit of character to your system. The next 10 questions are questions about the past. And the first one is from Jacob, who says, if you could meet any one of your past ancestors for the first time, who would it be? I don't know a whole lot of my past ancestors, but I do know that my dad has a family tree that goes all the way back to like the 1500s or something like that. I am German, at least like half of me or so by descent, so I would be kind of curious to go back to some of those ancestors who lived in that time and just sort of be there to observe how they live on a normal basis and what it was like back in that time. That that would be cool. What product brings back horrible memories from your time at Newegg? This is a good one because it made me realize that not all of my old Newegg TV videos are gone. There's a secondary Newegg channel called Newegg Products. And this is the DIY PC Ultimate Miner V1. I absolutely hated this product. For one, it was for mining. For two, it was basically just a bunch of pre-cut metal pieces that you had to assemble yourself with some screws. They tried to charge $80 for it. It again was made for mining, which I think a lot of people at the time were just using plastic crates for or something like that. Literally during this time lapse, the whole time I was just going like, what the hell is this product? I hate this product and I don't want to do anything about it. But you know, it was on the secondary channel, so I didn't feel quite as bad. But yeah, awful thing that it was. And hey, like I said, some of my videos are still on the Newegg TV secondary channel. Follow-up question from the Ruben. How did you meet your wife? I also met her through Newegg. She worked at Newegg and I worked at Newegg. We were at different warehouses, but our departments had a little bit of sort of overlap. So there was a like work lunch event at Hometown Buffet, and I sat next to her and I told her that I make really good ribs, because I do. I make really good ribs. And then like within a week, I actually made her those ribs and I followed through on what I said I would do. And then there was some other stuff that happened after that, and then we got married. What is the capital of Assyria? This is a good question about the past. Here's the Wikipedia page. I bet that has the information from 2025 BC to 609 BC, and it's a trick question. Assyria had multiple capitals: Assur, Kartnaktuninurta, Assur again, Nimrud, Dar-Shirkun, Nineveh, and Haran. Bet you didn't think you were going to learn that today. Thoughts on CRT monitors, and are they coming back? CRTs, or cathode ray tube monitors, which are the big bulky ones that they used to have before LCDs became popular, are still popular for certain applications, and especially if you're playing older games like 8-bit titles. Here's another area where I greatly appreciate the people who are so dedicated to sort of recreating that experience, and CRTs will look a lot better if you're playing an older game that's like an 8-bit game than playing it on an LCD. I don't think we're going to see a resurgence in popularity or like monitor manufacturers coming out with new CRTs or anything like that. What I do see happening is the video game emulators themselves starting to emulate or reproduce how a CRT looks. And from my understanding, some of the newer ones, especially if you're on a higher resolution like a 4K monitor, can really recreate that look without actually having to get an old CRT monitor. What's my worst RMA story as a customer or worker? And this is probably a follow-up to the video I did just a few days ago about Newegg and the Gamers Nexus RMA situation. And I probably relayed maybe the worst one in there, which was the rattlesnake that showed up just because it was presented the most danger to me physically. However, I'll say just in general that you often deal with really irate customers when you're working with returns. And I don't know whether it's the anonymity of the internet or just people look down on customer service agents or something, but people would often be just insanely rude and offensive and insulting. And one of my favorite things to do was to reply to someone who had just like basically insulted me and everyone who I work with and said that we're all idiots. And I would say something like, "Thank you for expressing your indignation with such effusive candor." And then I would go on to sort of scold them a little bit for insulting my entire department because we're just trying to do our jobs. And surprisingly, quite a few people would turn around and come back and be like, "You know what, I'm sorry, I was upset, let's work this out." So if you're dealing with customer service, whether it's Newegg or anywhere else, just remember that the people you're talking to on the phone often aren't the people who are doing the thing that pissed you off. And treating them with just a baseline level of respect and dignity reflects well on you, and it just makes the world a better place, so try to do that. Like I said, I'm probing myself a little bit here as well. So where was I born and raised? For anyone who didn't know, I was born in Fullerton, California, and I've been raised in Southern California my entire life. I even went to college at the University of Southern California, so I have traveled a decent amount and gotten away from this area to experience other things, but real nice weather we have here. It's like 81 today in early February. That's Fahrenheit, by the way. Do you ever feel burned out after doing YouTube for so long? Absolutely, 100%. And actually, burnout can happen in different ways though. Sometimes burnout can happen where I don't feel motivated or inspired to create content. And then the other kind of burnout can happen when you just feel so tired and worn out from doing so many different things that you don't have the time to invest in the projects that you do have in mind. For the past few years, it's absolutely been that second category. I have lots to work on, I have lots of projects to do. It's just a matter of how much time is there in the day to get anything done. And I will say that although that can be frustrating sometimes, it's not quite as bad to me as just feeling like I'm not inspired. I don't have anything to make content about. I have lots of stuff to make content about. I don't have time to do it. With past probings, do you go for the eye contact or just the simple petting? And this is obviously going to be subject to personal preference on some level. Eye contact, I think, is very important to establish intimacy. It's just, you know, if you got to twist around a lot to do it, that can be a little uncomfortable. What's your biggest regret from the past? I'm asking this of myself for some reason. My biggest regret from the past last is squandered opportunities. And I'd say that mostly goes back to my early 20s when I had lots of opportunities and lots of potential, like when I was going to school at USC. I didn't graduate. I often made decisions that were selfish or irresponsible, and looking back on it, yeah, I wish I could have gone back to myself at that point and be like, the heck are you doing? Just do some work, just go to class. Yeah, if you're in college, just go to class. It's not that hard. My next 10 questions are questions about the future, so a little bit more forward-looking. Do you have more home improvement projects planned? Absolutely, yes, I do. A short-term one is for the computer room and our bedroom. We want to skim coat the walls in there because they still have the bumpy stuff. And if I do that in the computer room, I'd like to do some more video content in there, make it a little bit more suitable for like live streaming. Right now, the whole room is like a beige putty color and just it never looks that great when I shoot anything out there, but I would like to fix that up a little bit. And then our plans for the backyard have stalled for a while, but that's another thing that I'm gonna try to kick into gear soon so we can clear that out and have a more usable, functional backyard. Will the chip shortage last until 2023? Yes, we're gonna see ongoing fallout from the chip shortage. That's not going away anytime soon. I'm hoping things can get better this year. I don't know if we're ever gonna get back to normal, whatever that might be. But the biggest change to my mind is going to be whether or not Ethereum actually moves to proof of stake, and we'll hopefully see if that happens by June or so. What's your outlook on the future of enthusiast PC building? I think PC building will stick around for a while. I've seen lots of doom and gloom reports in the past about PC building and desktop PCs going away, you know, back when tablets started to get popular. I think if you look at gaming in general, it's a huge, absolutely massive market. And I think even if PC gaming is a niche part of that market, it's still big enough that manufacturers will still cater to that audience. So hopefully we'll be able to build PCs for PC gaming for many, many years to come. Darth Radonis asks if he should upgrade his RTX 2080 Ti, like in 2022, I guess. No, Darth Radonis, you have a 2080 Ti. You don't need to upgrade. Any upgrade you do right now is going to be relatively minor and also incredibly expensive. So keep the 2080 Ti. It's doing a great job for you still right now. Do you plan to upgrade or replace Arctic Panther? That's my background PC back here. Yes. Do I have specific plans? No. I would like to upgrade that system at some point. Right now it's still working just fine. But I will let you guys know once I start developing more specific plans for what to do there. Will you and Kyle stream together again? I agree with you guys. I do miss streaming with Kyle. And we are still streaming at least a couple times a year for our Awesome Hardware charity streams. We have no immediate plans to start any other regular streaming thing between the two of us. But you guys might be happy to know that Kyle and I do still hang out pretty regularly, at least every 2 weeks or so. And we sit together and we drink some beer and we talk about stuff. We just aren't live streaming, which honestly is kind of nice from time to time. Not everything should be all about work. Will building computers for PC gaming ever die? I kind of already answered this question, I guess, about the future of enthusiast PC building. I think the only thing that would make PC gaming die is if people stopped being interested in building systems to that extent where you can choose individual parts for them. There are lots of companies who would much rather deliver you a completed product or a laptop or something like that, where they can decide all the internal components and make sure that they're establishing a nice, healthy profit margin for themselves. But I think as long as there are enough of us out there who want to tinker and put together our own systems, PC gaming will never truly die. I wasn't quite sure what to make of this from Perfect Agent 007. What is your mission? My mission is to make tech videos on YouTube telling people how to build computers so that they can build computers for their own personal use, maybe run a business, maybe play some games, and to try as much as I can to do that with a customer-oriented mindset and try to view things from your guys' perspective rather than the perspective of the manufacturers who create the products, because, you know, they can be shady sometimes. And I still don't know what this reference is, so let me know in the comments if you guys can figure that out. Could you make build, compilation, or time-lapse montages in the future, or have Joe do that? Zordanzig, you are probably completely unaware, but because of that comment that you made a couple months ago, I asked Joe, like, hey, maybe we could start doing this. And he put together this little montage that I posted over on Instagram about a week ago. Basically an assembly montage that's all-white PC that I put together. It turned out really nice. Joe did a great job. So the answer to your question is yes. We already did that, and hopefully we'll do that some more in the future. Have I ever actually been abducted and or probed by aliens? To my knowledge, no. Again, to my knowledge. But I did put this in the questions about the future segment, so you know, make of that what you will. My last set of questions I'm calling the back 9, and these are just all kind of random. Mecha Tortoise asks, if you could but not really haven't anymore and how, then why? I completely agree. Joe, do a meme. When will be your tech-related Netflix stand-up comedy special? I'm hoping to put that together at some point. I could maybe just do again like a montage of all my best jokes from tech news that I do on Sunday, because that's where I like make the most effort to try to make jokes and be funny from time to time. I never really considered that to be my forte, but people really seem to be enjoying that, so who knows, who knows, maybe I'll keep developing my skills. Do you wear Linus Tech underwear? No, I do not. I had the opportunity to get some back at the last LTX event. Instead, I got one of their hoodies, which is a very good hoodie. But like I mentioned before, I need to make tech briefs. People have requested that just a lot so far, so we'll obviously be in direct competition there. So why would I want to wear inferior Linus Tech underwear when I have tech briefs like waiting in the wings? Who would win, RoboCop or Terminator? I gotta go with Terminator. Sorry, Joe, but whether you're talking about the original T-800 or especially the T-1000, they just don't have that soft, fleshy core that seems to me to be a point of weakness like RoboCop has. What's the weirdest tech item that you've ever seen? For that, I gotta go with all the advances recently in robotics, and this expands to other areas like, I don't know, deep fakes and stuff like that. But like some of the stuff that was shown off at CES 2022 is just absolutely mind-bending, and really getting to that point where like, before we had sort of the uncanny valley when it comes to like tech stuff and especially like cybernetics and robotics. Now these are getting to be so well made that we're starting to get into that category where like it's like AI or some things we've seen in movies. So I don't know if that counts as weirdest, maybe scariest, but this is the best answer I can come up with for now. Which is worse, a purple nurple or a wet willy? I had to double check what a purple nurple was because I know what a wet willy is. Between the two though, I'd have to go with the wet willy. Purple nurple is like physical pain. Wet willy is just like uncomfortable and gross, which just sounds a little bit more tolerable to me. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. What's your favorite color? Mike, we agreed at the beginning of this episode not to do any more Monty Python references, but it's blue. No, yellow! And the 69th question from Adam Ramsey, how are you? A very simple question, but one with a lot of depth, and actually quite a few people asked something similar to this, so thanks to all of you guys who did ask that. I am doing pretty good, I would say. If I were to go back, I don't know, a year to 2 years, and people asked me this question, how are you? Instead of telling them how I would answer with whatever I was doing at the time, because it was something that I just didn't want to discuss, honestly. Compare that to now, where my answer is, I think I'm doing pretty good. And although that's not the best answer and everything's not hunky-dory, hopefully that's at least some evidence that things have been improving for me a little bit, and I really hope that things have been improving for you guys as well. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos, for all of your feedback, for all the questions that you asked, and for taking the time to get to know me a little bit more on a personal level versus just the regular tech videos that I do. Really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, of course, you can hit the thumbs up button. Leave me some more comments. I'm going to be bringing this segment back to doing it monthly, so I will be answering those in the next month's Probing Paul. I guess now that we've finally gotten past episode 69, we can look ahead to episode 100 maybe. But other regular end of the video things, check the description down below for timestamps and links and that kind of thing. A link to my store at paulshardware.net where you can buy shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and all other manner of high quality stuff you can spend money on. Subscribe to my channel, of course, if you're not already. Thank you guys again one last time. Cheers, and we'll see you in the next video.